As a character, Mukundan is fascinating. As a
Fascinating.
character, Mukundan Unni is fascinating, but he is not someone I would love to have around in my real life.
Always whatever Vineeth tells me is about the humor part. He always asks me to amp up the humor, amp up the humor, amp up the humor.
I was very apprehensive about the way this film ends.
Okay.
Okay, so I have told Abhi a million times to do something about it, but as adamant as he is, he won't, he won't budge. I won't direct this kind of film, Chris. But I enjoy being a part of it. I mean, I have huge respect for Abhi's vision, but this is not the kind of cinema that I
Yeah.
want to make.
Looks like it's a good time for Malayalam films, especially those that come packed with a lot of humor. After the success of Jai Hai, we now have Mukundan Unni Associates, which puts a very problematic character into its center and portrays him with a lot of humor. Playing this character is somebody we know as a very power actor, Vineeth Sreenivasan. And joining us for a conversation today is Vineeth and the director of this film, Abhinav. Welcome, both of you. Okay, so my first question is to you. I want to ask you if it all began with an idea of having a very problematic character in the center and then developing a story around it, or did it come as a
Yeah.
story to you?
No, it came as a climax. I wanted this to happen in the end, and then we had this character in mind. We I wanted to address a particular issue, and that actually became the center of the all my thoughts, and then came the story and everything.
So did it begin with the same structure? I mean, did you have in mind the same structure as how it's come out?
Yeah, not the voiceovers, but everything else I had in mind. The voiceovers came in the end. Yeah,
Oh, okay, because the voiceover this is the
yeah.
main part of the film, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's what everyone would feel when you watch it right now. But we had a version without voiceovers before.
Without it. Okay. Okay. And at what point did you decide that Vineet should play this character? You know, because Vineet, like I said, is seen off screen as this really power person and all, very soft. And this character is the polar opposite of that. So
Mhm.
why did you decide that Vineet should play this role?
We always had, I mean, we always knew he could be a perfect Mukundan Unni, but we had a larger film in mind, and we wanted a major star to come on board so that we could get the budget. The industry sadly works like that. When you need to make a huge film, you need to have a huge star. So that's the reality of it. How much ever the producers support, unless you have a major star on board, you don't get the budget you need. So. Even though we had Vineeth in mind, we had this idea of making this a bigger film and stuff like that, but that didn't happen sadly. But all for good, all for good. I would say everything fell in place after Vineeth came on board, and only because Vineeth played the part, I even imagined a voiceover for the film. If Vineeth hadn't played the part, I may not even go for voiceovers, which is now being hailed as the highlight of the film. So he's probably a savior in that aspect. I mean, his presence made a huge difference to the film, huge difference to the grammar of the film also.
And Vineet, what was your very first reaction when you were offered this role? Very first reaction.
No, I have heard the first draft of this film like 3, 4 years back.
Okay.
Back then, Abhi had a different actor in mind. So he has worked with me as an assistant director 9 years back. So we know for a long time. We have known each other for almost a decade now. So once he started writing itself, I mean, after the first draft itself, I have heard the story and everything. But then, with every film coming out, I mean, if there is a thriller releasing on Friday, Abhi is writing another draft on Saturday. It was like that. So he didn't want any similarities with any other films which were releasing. So he would draft, he would go through these multiple drafts, and I think in 2, 3 years, last time I think it was after the Dilish Pothan's film Joji. So when Joji got released, also he he called me up and he told me that I want to avoid the similarity, so I want to draft the script again. So I have gone through these multiple drafts over the last 3 4 years. So even from the first draft, I really like the idea of, this antagonist taking the story forward, and the whole medical insurance thing and everything. And so yeah, yeah. So even from the first draft, I was very impressed with the way it was going.
Yeah, but when you heard that you had to do this role, what was your reaction?
No, that was
No,
actually
I didn't
him who
think.
offered.
Sorry?
No, no. Another thing is, I mean, he was trying to get other actors on board, and it was not happening, and he was feeling very disappointed. So at one point, I told him that if no one else is going to do this film, don't worry, this film will still happen. I would do this. So yeah, it was like that. I was the backup.
Okay. Okay. And I know you've done characters with negative shades before, like starting from Japa Kurush, you've done this. But this is a whole different level of negativity, right? I mean, this guy does not have a single good thought coming to him, and it seems like it's never going to change, also. So, but you have to do all of this in an air of humor, right? So, were you afraid if you could pull off this character? It's a very, very difficult character to pull off.
I didn't think like that until the day I went for the shoot. Until the day I reached Wayanad, I was thinking, okay, I had a graph in my head about the character, and the day we started shooting, uh, I started realizing that that is not the way Abhi wants it. So Abhi has a totally different picture in mind about the character. The details that he was going for were very different. So the first 2 3 days, I had a lot of difficulty in figuring out the kind of performance that Abhi was expecting out of me. So I think the second day I started going and watching the visuals with the spot editor, and looking at what was coming out. And then I started realizing, okay, this is what Abhi is going for. This is the kind of detailing that Abhi is looking at. And I mean, he would suddenly come and tell me that you should not nod your head too much. You should not blink. So he would tell me these things, and I would not understand, why shouldn't I blink? Every human being blinks, right?
Right.
So why is he asking me not to do it? I realized it after a couple of days that there is a certain kind of strength that Abhi wants to project through for Mukundan Unni. So once I started understanding it, it started becoming easier. So maybe I think third or fourth day I started getting uh, used to. I mean, it started becoming a little easier for me to play this character.
And that was another challenge, right? I mean, outside you seem like this pakka normal character, and inside you have all these wild, evil thoughts. Only the viewer hears those thoughts, right? So, Abhi, how did you design such a character, and Vineeth, how did you play it?
Abhi started now.
Designing the character,
Because
yeah,
outside he's
designing the
very
character.
normal, inside he has a different mind altogether.
Yeah, that's the draft you see right now. I mean, initially we didn't have that inside thought idea while shooting. uh, it was all in my head, or maybe with my head and Vimal's head. Vimal is the co-writer. We both knew what the character would be thinking and everything. The initial film had the audience anticipating what he would do without knowing his thoughts. That would bring in a sense of curiosity and horror to an extent, of looking at this character doing something without understanding what his thoughts are. That was another kind of a film which would have worked fine, but in 2022 felt there needs to be a little more alteration to that aspect as well, because that is the aspect which Joji took. Joji had this screenplay structure where you don't know what Joji is thinking. You're just looking at Joji doing certain things, and that is unpredictable. Uh, Dilish Potan already used that in Joji, so I couldn't use that. At least I didn't want to use it because I didn't want to repeat things which already are done by other people. I wanted to introduce something new. So that's the reason I opted for a voiceover.
Yeah, and we need playing this person with two different kinds of thoughts, outside and inside.
It was, I mean, the challenge was not the performance. The challenge was the initial challenge was to figure out the way Abhi wants me to perform it. So once I figured that out, it was becoming easy. But then I would say slight difficulty was to Abhi wants everything in the text to be exactly delivered like that. So he doesn't want you know he doesn't want you to improvise the dialogues. So everything has to be by heart, and in this in the
I have a small correction to make there. I love improvisations, but we didn't shoot the film linearly, so I didn't want to take any risk of improvising in between. If I had shot the film linearly, I would have definitely improvised the dialogues as well. Yeah.
Okay.
എടാ
Yeah.
ഞാനതൊരു കുറ്റമായിട്ട് പറഞ്ഞതല്ല. I just said that's the way you work അത്രേ
Yeah.
ഉള്ളൂ.
Yeah. Yeah. He had all the
So
last
the thing
twinkle
is
comma and
ഇത് ഈ
everything ready.
അതെ. I mean, this
Uh,
character is a lawyer, right? So there are these technical terms, contributory negligence, and uh, you know, there are so many these IPC numbers and everything. So basically, our text by heart, you can't fiddle with the uh, dialogues. So there was a certain scene with this character called Annie, played by Ria Sera. So post Venu Vakil's episode, there's a scene where I have a conversation with Annie ma'am. So that scene, I was dreading that scene, literally, because I know how Abhi wants. By the time I knew the kind of performance that Abhi is expecting out of me, I should not blink. I should not, have a lot of graph in the dialogue modulations and everything. So, it's like that deadpan face and throwing the dialogues on the face with a very, 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 husky tone to it. So every day morning, I would get up and I would rehearse that particular scene for almost 10, 12 days. So that was one scene which I was very scared about, and I rehearsed so much in front of the mirror. Other than that, the rest of the film, I was okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. I mean, because in one way you're like this Nagavalli person because you're a totally power person off screen in interviews and everything. And the minute maybe the camera turns on, you become this whole other person. I'm talking to you, Vineeth, by the way. So, so
Okay.
we've heard this of actors, right? Some people who change the minute the camera turns on, they become the characters and everything. In your case, I think it has been an evolving story. So, could you tell us about it?
I don't know. I can't.
Like you said, now you practiced every day in front of the mirror. So, how did this evolution happen to you as an actor?
No, the thing is, earlier when I was doing my films, I would just do what the director asked me to do. I mean, I think it was until 2014. It was until Orme Undoy Mukham. I did one film called Orme Undoy Mukham in 2014, I think. So until then, I would just listen to whatever the director is saying, and I would try to do that. So from Ormendo Mugam, I started thinking about, okay, how can we make this interesting? How can I come in, without interrupting the vision of the director? Is there anything that I can add to it? So that thought started with Ormendo Mugam, and Ormendo Mugam and Manoharam. These two films were directed by the same director, Anwar Sadiq. So Anwar Sadiq is one director who helped me, you know, look at characters in a different way. So, I think if there is any change in the kind of performance that I'm delivering today, I would give a lot of credit to Anwar for that. So I think he he just took out a few good things about I don't know. If there are any, I would love to give the credit to him.
But after that, you also started putting your own inputs. Is that what you're saying? I mean, apart from listening to the director.
It's not like I mean, it's not on the surface level, but you think about the character, no? When you think about the character, that helps. When you before performing, if you understand how this guy is thinking in his head, if you have an understanding about it, that itself will help. And on screen, less is more. You don't have to do a lot. You have to understand that the thought process of that person, and that becomes easy. Plus, these small changes, no, regarding the looks and the way you walk or the pauses you take and small things, it will make a world of difference. I mean, the speed of the dialogue delivery or these little details, so this makes a large difference, is what I think. Plus, I am a very limited actor, so I have my, there is a graph, there is a box within which I perform. So it's tweaking within that box.
Do you agree with that, Abhinav, that he's a very limited actor?
He's humble all the time, so I'm not going to correct him in any way. Um, the world knows the difference. It's okay.
So, Abhinav, the film is obviously doing very well now. But when
Yeah.
you started, like when you started with the whole process, were you apprehensive on how it will be accepted? I mean, we've had films with anti-heroes before. We had Pulu even recently.
Mm.
But this is a villain who has to be presented with humor. And that's not a common thing, right? So, were you apprehensive on how people will receive the film?
In my case, I've always been confident. For some reason, I've always been confident. I think Vineeth knows that. I've always been confident, even when my first draft, which was not really good, even with that draft, I was confident. I had this fool's confidence all the time. I always have this fool's confidence all the time. So I'm confident. I've always been confident. So I'm glad it worked out. Yeah.
Vineet, were you apprehensive, playing this character, if this will be something that the audience will accept?
I was very apprehensive about the way this film ends.
Okay.
Okay, so I have told Abhi a million times to do something about it, but as adamant as he is, he won't budge.
He asked me to. He
So
asked me to even in the editing table. He asked me to delete Arsha's and Tanvi's conversation.
because the messaging, the whole conversation that you're bringing out, people can take it the other way, so I've asked him, but I know he won't do it. More
So,
than more than that conversation, there were a few other things that Abhi did, which I had huge problems with. But I'm
He
very
didn't even dub
happy
it.
and glad that he removed it.
I mean, I had a voiceover for him in the end, which he said, "Abhi, I'm not going to dub it." He just bluntly said he's not going to dub it.
and he will do it?
He didn't do it.
Chris, a lot of people think that Mukundan Unni, the film, is offensive. They haven't seen the version that I've seen. This is just borderline offensive.
Okay. Vineet, if this was a film that you were directing, how differently would you have taken it?
I won't direct this kind of film, Chris. But I enjoy being a part of it. I mean, I have huge respect for Abhi's vision, but this is not the kind of cinema that I
Yeah.
want to make.
Yeah.
I love his vision. We disagree on so many things, but we go hand in hand. That is the beauty of cinema, no?
Yeah.
You know, People say that they have to, the director's vision has to match the actor's vision, only then I'll act in their films. I won't say like that. You know, my thought process is entirely different. Abhi's thought process is entirely different. I'm coming from a different place. He's coming from a different place. He's coming from different experiences. I'm coming from different experiences. So, I totally respect his, creative decisions as a director. and I'm super happy that I'm part of Mukundan Unni Associates. But if you ask me, if this is the kind of film that I want to direct, no.
But do you both agree that using humor to talk about any subject will make it work 10 times better? I mean, like recently we had Jaya,
Absolutely.
right? And it uses humor to talk about something as serious as domestic violence. And it worked.
Yes.
So
Yes.
do you both agree that humor works big time?
Yes.
I do.
Yes.
Now, Abhi has to say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. In from the initial draft of the film, he whatever always whatever Vineeth tells me is about the humor part. He always asks me to amp up the humor, amp up the humor, amp up the humor. But I didn't want to, because then it would all look very forced in the film. But finally, everything fell in place exactly how Vineeth wanted, because I came up with this voiceover thing, which added humor to the film, which which was this, which all which made sense, because not the way Vineeth wanted it to happen, but it happened the way he wanted.
It
I don't
happened,
know how
no?
to explain this. It happened.
It happened, no?
It just happened. It,
No, what's your problem? People are loving the film. What's your problem?
Vineeth wanted me to amp up the humor in the dialogues, which I said no, it would look
Yeah,
forced.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
never added dialogue humor or anything like that. But finally, I myself added humor. Which
Okay.
then I thought about, isn't it what Vineeth asked me to do in the first place?
Did you not want
Maybe
this much of humor
not the
in
way
the
he wanted it.
film?
Yeah. What?
I mean, did you not want this much of humor in the film
No,
was
I
added?
wanted humor. I mean, I don't have any problem with humor, but I cannot make it a dialogue humor film, because that would spoil the entire I mean, this is about a character. So the humor in the film comes from his thoughts, which actually makes all the sense to the film. So I'm not against that. So that is something that looks very organic to the film now. If it had come through dialogues, it may not look good for the film.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, every change that happened with Mukundan Unni, it was for the betterment of the film. I mean, we have had so many discussions within ourselves, but good thing about Abhi is that he won't agree with anything that he doesn't believe in. So, so finally, he found an idea by himself to, incorporate humor into the film, and it worked for people.
Yeah.
So yeah,
No, it's all about my me realizing that I mean, certain things don't work in theaters. And I mean, me as an editor, I trust my judgment as an editor. So after the film, Nitin is my co-editor. So he did a first cut of the film. So I took a 1 month break. So that's when Nitin did this first cut. So after taking a break, I had this fresh objectivity in my head. I could see the film as it is. So I went there and saw the film, understood what are the flaws, what are the issues in the film, and I that's when I started thinking about how to rectify it, and how to present this in a way that would engage and entertain people. So that's when this idea of voiceover came to me. But it slowly grew, with, of course, while dubbing, Vineeth had its own improvisation. A lot of dialogues he improvised, and he had his own contribution to the film, um, through
Give an
voiceovers.
example of one
Huh?
improvisation that can you give
One
an
improvisation.
example of one improvisation? You know.
Vineeth, please. ഇനി
Yeah.
ആഘോഷത്തിന്
I
ദിനങ്ങൾ, it's party time.
ഇനി ആഘോഷത്തിന്റെ ദിനങ്ങൾ, it's party time. So things like that.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
there are a few,
Cruel humor
there are a
came
few,
from
few more. There are a few more which he came up with, better than what I had in mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
hallucinate ചെയ്ത് വെറുപ്പിക്കുകയാണ്.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
There are a
I
couple of
think
voices. Yeah.
yeah, I
I
think
mean,
maybe
it
people
was
are relating to it. Yeah.
more than shoot. I had a super time with Abhi during the edit of the film, during the
Yeah.
dubbing, actually. I mean, both of us were bursting into laughter. I was on the voice booth. I was in the voice booth, and he was in the recording console, and we'll bounce back and forth about the idea. I mean, Abhi studied in Kendriya Vidyalaya, so he thinks in English. So he'll talk to me through the talkback, and sometimes I'll translate in Malayalam. Sometimes he'll give me an idea, and I'll bounce back with something else. So it was more like that.
Yeah.
So we had a ball. We had a ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think even these character, I mean, people can relate to these dialogues because these are things that we also think, right? മിണ്ടാതിരുന്നാല് പോവുമായിരിക്കും, കുറച്ചു നേരം
No,
മിണ്ടാതിരിക്കാം
no,
അപ്പൊ
Abhi's
പോവുമായിരിക്കും.
idea.
Sorry, sorry.
That is all Abhi. It's all Abhi.
Abhi, yeah. I think people think these thoughts themselves, so that's why maybe they can relate to it so much. Yeah, and also in your film, the good characters, are all shown as having bad ends. Um, I don't have to mention who, right? I mean, the one of the lawyers, woman lawyers, and one of the judges. So they're all shown as these good characters, and they all end up having bad times. So was that intended, in parallel to Mukundan Unni's success story, we have all these sad stories of good people.
Of course, it needs to be there. Contrast needs to be there so that this becomes more effective. ഈ മറ്റേ പുലിമുരുകനില് മോഹൻലാലിനെ കുറിച്ച് പറയാൻ ഒരാൾ വേണല്ലോ. അപ്പം നമ്മള് സ്റ്റാറിനെ പോകാൻ ഒരാൾ എപ്പോഴും വേണല്ലോ. അതുപോലെ മുകുന്ദുണ്ണി ജയിക്കുമ്പോ തോറ്റു പോകാണ്ടിരിക്കാൻ കുറെ ആൾക്കാർ വേണല്ലോ.
But what did you guys personally think about Mukundan Unni as a character?
As a character, Mukundan Unni is fascinating. As a character, Mukundan Unni is fascinating, but he is not someone I would love to have around in my real life.
Yeah. People will write books about him, I guess. Yeah. You are active in multiple areas, so getting appreciated in what particular area brings you the most happiness? Like you as a writer, Anna, or you as an actor, or you as a singer, which appreciation brings you the most happiness?
It's not like that. Anganella, when the film works, no, you're happy. It's not about your performance. The film has to work.
No, I mean, like generally, other than the film, suppose somebody comes and tells you you're a very good actor, Vineeth, would you rather hear that you're a very good writer?
No, if someone comes and tells me that I'm a very good actor, I won't take them seriously.
I won't take them seriously, okay. Why?
No, if they are coming and telling me that I'm a very good filmmaker, I'll be very happy. I don't mean to say that I'll take them seriously, but I'll be very happy. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's what makes you the most happy, to hear that you're a very good filmmaker.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah. And Abhi, what about you? This is your first film as a director.
Yeah.
And what are you feeling now? I mean, it's been 5 days since the release, and it's a
I'm
huge
feeling
success.
relaxed. Not
Yeah.
relaxed, relieved. I'm relieved because it's been years, so many years. I
As
don't
in the
know.
story was in your head.
Not just the story, the journey I went through. It's been a long journey. I can't really express what I feel, what I'm feeling right now. I'm just happy and relieved. Nothing more than that.
Yeah. And just one last question. Was there any real life inspirations for this film? I hope not, but was there any?
There is.
Yes.
There are a lot of this. Of course. I mean, you make a film only because you are affected by certain things. I personally cannot make films unless something touches my heart, be it negatively or positively. I cannot make films without something really affects me. So this is an emotional film. This doesn't have emotions, but this came from my heart. Yeah.
So is there really a Mukundan Unni lurking out there somewhere?
Yes, there are many. I mean, many.
Okay.
Abhi, please don't say
That's
names,
all.
please.
Yeah. Sorry.
ആരുടെയും പേരൊന്നും പറയല്ലേന്ന്.
Oh, ഒരിക്കലുമില്ല.
Yeah.
I don't want to die.
Okay. Yeah, that's all, guys. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.